Good evening and welcome to Good News on Entertainment. I'm Carly Boyette. Tonight, we'd start by heading back out to Nashville to the National Christian Media Conference, where I had a chance to sit down with several people who were using their gifts, talents, and careers to serve God. One of those people I sat down with is recording artist formerly known as Sean B. He is now going by the name Sean Rodriguez as he enters a new season of music and ministry, honoring the legacy of his grandfather. Before turning his focus to music, Sean had been a youth leader and children's pastor. He has an amazing story and heart for the Lord. And over the last couple of years has opened for some of the biggest names in Christian music like Michael W. Smith for King and Country and Kane.
Every time we walk in the room, so let your spotlight show everywhere I go. Let the way I live, let the whole world know you're center stage. Take center stage, 'cause it's showtime all the time. Come and take your place, Jesus, make your way to center stage.
People are going to look at you, see you, maybe hear you and go, hey, that's Sean B.
Yep.
But there's a name change and a meaningful name change, which I'm excited to talk with you. But first, I'm so excited to get time with you.
Thank you for having me on. You guys have been great. It's exciting to be here.
It's exciting to see what, again, God is doing in this city, in Nashville. We were talking about that before we got started. I feel like a lot of creatives moving here as far as, the TV, film, and all of that. I feel like this has always been a music city.
Right.
But see, Christian music and how this is just blossoming as well. I mean, do you feel that kind of being in the heart of this area?
Yes. So you will see in Nashville, you will see the most talented people that you'll see anywhere. And the thing that they all have in common, not only is that they're all super talented, but they are all super full of Jesus. And so you're going to meet great musicians, great singers, and great artists, but you're also going to make great friends.
Yeah.
Which is like life is all about relationship, and we're made to be in relationship. And so, anyone who's looking for music and friendship, I mean, God is just all around that.
Yeah.
Nashville, Tennessee is the place to be.
Well, it seems like God has been all around your life, and I want people to really hear your story. Again, there's a big name change that has just happened recently, so kind of take us back, and explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so when we did Winter Jam last year, I was going by Sean B. It was spelled B-E, and it was a call to action, be the light to the world, be the love to the world, be everything that God calls you to be.
I like that. Why do we need the name change then? I'm totally in for that.
It was great, but the reason that I wanted to change was to kind of honor the legacy and the heritage of my family and what God has allowed me to come from. So my grandfather, Pastor William Rodriguez, he has been a pastor in the inner city of Denver, Colorado for over 40 years. And it was early on that he got the call. He was making great money in another line of work, and he stepped away and he said, okay, we don't know how we're going to do this, but God called us to go and serve in ministry and to spread the word. And, they lived on a very tight budget for a very long time, but they just always knew that the sacrifice was going to be worth it when they're doing God's work, and that he would always take care of them as long as they were being obedient. And so they did that, and God did. He grew the church, and so many people's lives have been changed in that inner city community. I mean, you're talking about, broken families coming back together. You're talking about addictions being given up, lives being changed, and obviously not overnight, but people come.
Did you see that as a young kid, or okay? So you were living it and seeing it as it happened.
I watched that happen, and so many people sometimes they say like, oh, there's a lot of drama in church. There's a lot of blah blah.
And there can be.
Growing up in church, you see that, but the goodness of God that you see in church far outweighs any kind of human drama that we could stir up ourselves. Like, to see those families be restored is incredible. And so, for me, my grandfather taught me the importance of ministry and the importance of obedience to God and following his heart rather than following your own heart, because sometimes your own heart can get selfish. We're humans. And so the change was both to honor what God has done in his life, but also what God has done in my life through him. My grandfather, he was there through every wrong thing that I ever did, and he was there to celebrate every win with me. And I just, I wanted to be able to carry on that legacy of ministry and that legacy of just who he taught me to be as a man. So it was,
Well, and I
it's one of
love that
those.
we're talking about ministry through music and through, and again, when I kind of first stepped into this role, we're really promoting a lot of the faith-based films, and you never want anything to replace the church, right? Like church is important, but when you have all these other avenues that can point people to Christ and can still do the job of telling people about Jesus, even though you're not a pastor, right? Like I just get so excited about that so many people now, and they have all through the years, but if we could get more people to surrender their gifts and their talents.
Well, and like you said, I know I'm not a pastor, but if you come to one of my concerts, you're going to hear some preaching. Because music is an incredible way to relay a message and, to just give people an opportunity to worship God in maybe an environment that they wouldn't be in otherwise. But then also, once you have them listening, you can deliver that message. You can just speak it straight to them. There's always a time in my set where I stop and I say, hey, look, here's a word for you guys. I want to encourage you and I want to help. I want you to leave here with something, thinking a different way, or, having a different habit in your life when you walk out, just something, a word from God. And it may not encourage everybody, but, it's always encourages just a few people, and those were the people that needed to hear it, then our job is being done well.
I heard Max Lucado one time say something that like rocked me. I'm like, this is so true. Like sometimes you don't need a whole sermon.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a song. Like a song or music can be that powerful that it can change your heart. It can change your perspective so fast and have such a powerful impact that a whole 30, 40 hour long sermon can. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that at concerts.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's the power of music is incredible. And I'm just very thankful that God has allowed me to, preach through that and also just through a spoken word as well. So.
Well, let's talk about music and talk about where you're at. And obviously lots of good stuff. One of the songs, Unbelievable. Talk about kind of and again, there's more coming that we can't say. So we're playing it safe at the time of this interview. So talk about the music that's already out that people can listen to today.
Yeah, so I just recently released a song called Unbelievable, and I paired that with a song called Glory, and it was very intentional why those two came out together. So both songs are based off Ephesians 3:20. It says, "Now all glory to God, who's able through his mighty power at work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or imagine." So the Unbelievable is a little bit more worshipy, and it's a little bit more, contemporary Christian sounding. And that song talks about, all of these incredible things that happen in our life. If you tell somebody who's a non-believer, these stories seem unbelievable. And that's because they are. But the only reason that we see these incredible transformations in our life is because we believe in the God who can do the unbelievable. And so that's what that song is about. And then we paired that with Glory, where the unbelievable is focusing on the back half of the Bible verse that says, infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. Now, Glory is focusing on the beginning of that Bible verse that says, now all glory to God, who through his mighty power work within us. And that's a part of the verse that even Christians, we can skip over so many times because we want to go straight to what does God have that's unbelievable for me? What can God do for me above and beyond? It's like, hold on, pump the brakes for a minute.
Yeah.
We need to remember that the glory goes to God for these things. And we need to remember that without God's work within us, none of this is possible in the first place. And so they're both paired the same to talk about that. And Glory has a little bit more of a pop hip hop edge to it, where I actually do a rap like
yes you do and I'm here for it.
And so and the reason for those two things is to reach the family. We wanted to reach the family, the same message to a different audience. And a big part of that was when I got off the Winter Jam tour and I was just really praying about what God wanted me to do next. And he said, look, I didn't take you out of ministry, because prior to music, I was actually I worked in family ministry. So what God told me was that, look, I didn't take you out of ministry to go do music. I extended your ministry platform to reach more people through music. So because you were focused on the family prior to this, your music needs to reflect the family ministry that I called you to. And so we said, okay, well, let's make let's make two songs based off of one Bible verse that can reach the family. And it's been incredible. The feedback that we've got on that has been so good. And man, I'm just thankful to be able to operate in that.
Yeah. So you did Winter Jam last year. I heard through the grapevine, people absolutely loved you.
Oh, man.
So what's next? I mean, because again, I know it's not easy, going on the road and trying to do all the things. So what can you tell us as far as what's next?
Yeah, definitely. So we're planning a summer tour. Dates for that will be released. There'll also be a fall tour, dates coming for that. But ultimately, what's next is I just want to continue to, move forward down this path that God has set me and my team and my family on, and always making sure that we lead with the message first. Never want to be the guy that's going to show up and do a couple songs and take off. Like, if you're going to hear some preaching, you're going to get some Jesus. And so just keeping focused in whatever comes next, we know that it's going to be led by God. It's going to be, the word at the forefront and the music.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple tours coming up. Music is coming up. We have a song called The House of God. That's going to be super exciting. That's just talking about how, church, the house of God, unifies people. You can see, especially the church that I came up in, inner city Denver, you can see the former convicts worshiping next to the businessman, worshiping next to grandma and her grandson.
I love it.
And the thing that they all have in common is that they've all been transformed by the love of God. And so when we come to the house of God, it's time to worship.
Well, you know what I love too, what's happening with Christian music, and I know it's been happening over the years, but the diverse, the hip hop and the different kind of genres that are now pouring into this space is kind of new and exciting. And I'm a mom, I have 3 younger kids, like I see that I want them to have music, that they are excited to listen to, and there's so many more options now, I think, than when I was a kid.
Yeah, and that's so important because the world, secular music, secular media is pumping such a negative message. Pumping this message of like self-glorification.
And the music. My goodness.
The only thing that matters is you and how you feel. That's the message that we're being given. But the problem is that, that we as Christians are facing is that their media is done so well that it's been hard to keep up with it. But now the tide is kind of turning. Film is getting so much better. Music is getting so much better. And it's starting to be like, okay, well, hold on. This sounds like just as cool as this does now, and this has a better message. Like, you don't have to sacrifice quality. You don't have to sacrifice any of that because it's just, the level has raised so much. And you can tell just as we learn more together, as we grow together, as everybody collaborates and works more together, we are taking that power that media had for the world. We're taking that back and we're using it for good now. So it's so exciting.
Amen. I love it. I love it. I am so excited. And what an honor to get some time with you here in Nashville. Since Sean and I last spoke, he has released yet another single called Honey. And by the way, he will be playing a lot of festivals this summer as well. You can find all the info you need at SeanRodriguezMusic.com. Okay, now to someone else who you will find on stage these days, comedian Nikki Bell. He is an award-winning, clean comedian that just released his sophomore album, Live from the Paramount. And when it released April 1st, it reached #1 on the iTunes album chart. In fact, Nikki Bell has also toured with artists like Jason Crabb, Zach Williams, and Shonda Pierce. But one thing you need to know about him is he is very passionate about mental health awareness. And as a former pastor that had to find his own road to redemption after a fall from grace, he doesn't shy away from tough topics, but yet manages to still make people laugh.
We went into McDonald's the other day. They had me walk up to a box to place my order. They call it a kiosk. That's a German word. It means I want you to do my job for me. I'm sorry, last time I checked, you're the one getting paid $14 an hour to mess up my order, not me. But I walked up, even though I failed typing in high school, I walked up and placed my order. That box asked for a tip. A tip. I did all the work, and the kiosk asked for a tip. Let me tell you who I'm going to tip. The first person that walks into McDonald's that knows how to fix that ice cream machine, that's the person who's getting my money. You hear me? I don't care if they have to from Chick-fil-A, it'll be their pleasure to come over there and fix that ice cream machine. Y'all, I'm comedian Mickey Bell. God bless you. Thank you.
Oh, we're in for some laughs now. Not to put any pressure on you, but I just know that's what you do. But I first want to start out with congratulating you. It was funny before we hit record, and I said congratulations on your latest release, hitting #1 in the comedy kind of genre for online. Man, I think you were even surprised.
It's still trying to sink in. It's still trying to sink in, but I'm elated. I never knew that my journey would have taken me this far, much less to see something that I've done hit #1. I'm like, what? I thought it was an April Fool's joke because we released my comedy CD on April Fool's Day. So
Oh, this is what I love what God does, because I think sometimes we put him in a box, or we say, oh, he can't use me on this. I mean, he just is so much bigger, and there's so much, we think we know what we want and what we would be good for.
I made him a list. I sent him a list and told him, this is what I'm good at. I could do this and I could do that. And he laughed at me. And he says, no, I really want people to laugh at you the rest of your life. And I'm like, well, it's okay now because I'm getting paid for it. So I'm just, as long as we continue that track, I'm okay.
It's so interesting. You have this wonderful redemption story. Being a former pastor, you're very honest that you had this fall from grace. But to now see this path that God has put you on, and you really thought kind of the redemption story was going to be what people connected with, because me and you both talked about, we do love a good redemption story.
And most people do. They like to know, because every one of us have places in our life we wish we could go back and undo or redo, or at least hit the refresh button. And so that was me. And when I first started, I had made the decision that I was going to be very open about it. I wanted people to know that, because with the anxiety that I was dealing with, I was always in the back of my mind, what if people find out? What happens if people find out? So I wanted to get ahead of that. But then when I started sharing more about my mental illness struggles, that's when everything took a turn. That's when individuals really started reaching out, and that's really what started connecting.
So, and let's talk about that. What is it that what is the feedback that you're hearing, and how do you, comedy's so tough. You can offend people so fast. And then I can't imagine when you add a little bit of the mental health community into it as well. You are treading on such...
I'm not treading, Carly. I am skating. I am not treading. I am skating wide open on this thin ice.
But what's the response? What is it that you are tapping into that you think that is just really connecting with people? I will say, with faith-based, the audience too, I think we are in a generation now where they don't want to hear it sugar-coated. Like, I think people are really ready to hear the real, the gritty, the truth.
They are, and they're very receptive of that. Well, first of all, I am a clean comic, and what that pretty much means is that I don't cuss in my shows, and that's for two reasons. Number one, I don't think you have to cuss to be funny, even though it's harder to do. Number two, my mother is still living. So my main thing when I started doing the comedy, and then I started throwing in my story, people were kind of like, wait a minute, time out. You mean to tell me I've been laughing with this guy this entire time, and now he's going to tell me that he's just like me? He's going to tell me that his struggles are the same as my struggles? You mean to tell me that if he can stand on that stage in front of all these people and help all of us laugh till we pee in our pants, you mean to tell me I can have that in my life even though I have mental illness? And I think that is what is attracting people to what we're doing, is simply because I don't want you to just come and laugh. I want you to laugh, but then leave encouraged, knowing you can laugh like this every day. And so I think we're giving it a whole new spin on this whole mental illness, that yes, you may struggle with that, but it doesn't define you, and that you can also live a happy life even though that you have to fight this every day.
And talk about what the future does look like for you, because again, this is all kind of new territory. There's not a whole lot of people that are doing what you're doing and partnering with other people that you are, and touring.
I know. Carly, they're asking for my autograph. And they're asking for my autograph, and that's freaking me out a little. This whole identity crisis that we're having, people stealing your identity and everybody coming up wanting me to sign. I'm like, no. I'm gonna sign stuff. No, you know, the thing is, and I learned this about a year ago. You were asking about what does the future hold. I have no idea. When I started doing this, things that have happened, I've won some awards as a comedian of the year. I didn't even know that existed. Then this release comes out. People were begging me. They kept saying, "You need to get something with you doing stand up on CD so we can listen to you." And after 2 years, I finally listened to them and did it. And then it goes number one, as you mentioned earlier. I was just trying to find a way to bring that back up again. But I never would have imagined this. So I'm afraid that if I try to speak or imagine, I'm afraid I'm going to think too small.
Yeah.
Because God, whenever you put yourself on a track to where God wants you, I'm just at the point now to where I'm like, all right, God, whatever, because you've already blown my mind.
Well, and talk about the big names that you've been able to work with and partner with. It's really exciting to see how we're all using our creative gifts.
Yeah.
We're all different flavors and varieties. And that is what I get so excited about.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, of the success, if we want to term it success that I've had, has been the route that I took. So, and that's what blows the minds of other comics. They'll call, they'll reach out, emails. How are you doing what you're doing? Because I did not go the comedy club route. I did my local comedy club in Birmingham and sold it out, but I didn't go to open mic nights to work on my craft. So instead of going to the clubs to make drunk people, laugh, I just went to Baptist churches and made those drunk people laugh. So I went a totally different route. And you mentioned the people that I get to travel with. So what I do is I travel with musical artists. And so I will go in and we will do shows together so that I can come out and we can laugh and have a good time before you hear the uplifting music. The artists like it because it's not another musical artist that's playing before them. And then the audience is ready. By the time they've been laughing for 30, 45 minutes, they're ready for that particular artist to come out. And there's no one else doing what I'm doing when it comes
That's
to
what's
that.
so impressive. I'm like, why haven't we thought of this earlier?
Well, you know what? Back in the 80s, country music did it. Reba McEntire, Alabama, the Oak Ridge Boys all had a comedian that opened for them. That's where I learned it. And so they all had a comedian that opened for them, and then that all kind of shifted because the record labels started putting their up-and-coming artist as the opening act, so that kind of changed. But in the Christian realm, there's really not a lot of comedians that would actually fit in this genre of what we're doing. And so, it was just another one of those things where God says, this is what I want you to do. Here's the plan. This is the way I want you to go. I did it exactly the way he told me to do it. And now I'm talking to Carly. Come on.
What would be your word of encouragement? One, for mental health, because I really want to make sure we drive this home.
Absolutely.
And that people know that they're not alone and that struggles with mental health they are in the church. They are in the faith-based community. It's not because you don't have enough faith or it's not because you're not doing. I just think there's so much stigma, especially in the faith-based community, that it seems like you're tapping into. So I want some encouragement for that first. We'll start there.
Well, first of all, God does not talk to me like other Christians talk to me. Because when I started with my battle, God never looked at me and said, well, Mickey, you're just going to have to get over it. He reached down his hand to me and he said, Mickey, if you can muster up enough energy to reach up and grab a hold of my hand, I will walk with you every step of the way. People ask me all the time, especially when we go into some of more of our Pentecostal charismatic venues. They're like, well, do you believe God can heal you? And I'm like, absolutely. And God touches me. But we are more prone to teach people how to speak it and shout it, but we don't teach them how to fight. Because God can touch me and deal with my mental illness today, but tomorrow the enemy is coming after me again. So I not only have to learn how to believe for my healing, I now have to learn how to fight. And people say, well, I think God could just wipe it away. And I went, okay, God forgave me of my sin, but I still have to learn how to fight the tempter when he comes against me. The same way with mental illness. He's going to come at me to attack my weakness. So yeah, I'm going to shout. Yes, I'm going to pray. I'm going to believe for a healing, but I'm going to learn how to fight. Because I may be healed today, but he's coming after me tomorrow. So I've learned how to fight my depression, and I've learned how to beat it each day. So thinking that you can defeat it once and for all can't happen, because you're still going to have tragic moments that hit your life. You're going to have moments of weakness. You're going to have times where you're going to want to give up and just run away. That's when your training of learning how to fight spiritual battles is going to come in, and that's how you're going to learn how to laugh even though you deal with mental illness.
It's why we're called to be in the Word on a daily basis. The minute we think we have it figured out, that's when the enemy loves to come in.
Absolutely. And when you learn how to defeat sin, you can learn how to defeat mental illness. When you learn how to conquer those things, you have to identify who the enemy is. The enemy is not your spouse, your parent, or your kids. You have to identify the enemy, and then you have to learn how to fight that enemy, because Paul said it this way. He says, if I don't learn how to fight my enemy, then I'm just going to be a boxer that's just hitting thin air, and I'm not connecting with anything. So what we have to do is identify that enemy. Once we identify the enemy, learn how you need to fight that enemy to get your happiness back, and then you just continuously do it on a daily basis.
Ah, man, I just love you. I'm such a fan. I can't wait to see what God continues to do, where he continues to take you. And where can people follow along? What's kind of and again, there's the audio out now. And I asked you before we got started, I need video now. I want like some kind of video special. So
Well, I'll tell the audience, as I told you, when you come out as a clean comic, especially when you're coming from a faith-based background, they pretty much told me that it probably wouldn't happen. They said, don't expect to see, yourself at the top of the iTunes chart. And we released it, and within 10 hours, it was #1. And so that let management and everyone know on our team that, okay, now we got to do a video. So they're squirming now. I'm talking to you. They're squirming in the background, trying to figure out how we're going to get this thing on video. But it's probably going to come out pretty quick that we're going to try to make that happen. But no, God just showed up. The people, we've got a great fan base that supports us. And but no, you could just go to The Mickey Bell is the website, themickey.bell.com. The reason "the" is in front of it was because when I started, somebody else owned MickeyBell.com. So it's themickeyBell.com, but it's The Mickey Bell on all social media. Yeah, so you can. I think we're on Facebook, Instagram, Mammogram, TikTok. We're on all of them. So you can just find us.
oh, what a joy, again, to spend some time with you. And I hope we get to talk again soon.
Well, you're in control of that, so you make it
Okay.
happen.
Don't get too big now, though, or you say, no, I don't have time now.
Oh, no, I'll always have time.
You can find out when Mickey may be coming to a city near you by going to his website, themickeyBell.com. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I'm Carly Boyette, and I look forward to seeing you next week right here on your Christian Television Network.